Welcome to Dark Tale Delights. Thanks for listening to the stories I post, and if you like the stories, please subscribe and like the channel to help us grow. If you have a story to tell, send it to me and I will consider recording it to share here on my channel. Now, enjoy the story. The Abandoned Hunter's Lodge. In the heart of the mist-covered mountains, there stood an old and abandoned hunter's lodge. Its time-worn wooden walls creaked in the chilly wind, and the silence that surrounded it was broken only by the haunting echoes of a forgotten past. One crisp autumn day, a lone traveler named Alex ventured into the mountains, seeking shelter from the impending storm. With a worn-out backpack slung over one shoulder, Alex stumbled upon the desolate hunter's lodge. The exterior appeared ominous, with windows shattered and paint peeling off, but the promise of warmth drew Alex closer. Upon entering the lodge, Alex was greeted by an eerie stillness. Dust particles danced in the air as if frozen in time. The main hall featured a large stone fireplace, its embers long extinguished, and tattered animal trophies adorned the walls, their glassy eyes staring into the emptiness. As night fell and the wind howled outside, Alex settled into a creaky old chair by the fireplace. The traveler's eyes wandered to a dusty bookshelf, where a row of journals caught attention. Curiosity getting the better of them, Alex pulled out a journal and began to read the faded entries. The journals chronicled the sinister history of the hunter's lodge. Decades ago, a group of hunters had sought refuge there during a harsh winter. Desperation and hunger led them to perform dark rituals in the pursuit of game. As Alex delved deeper into the entries, it became apparent that the hunters' desperation had unleashed something malevolent within the lodge. The entries spoke of strange occurrences, whispers in the night, shadows that moved of their own accord, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. The final entry, written in trembling script, hinted at a night of terror that ended in the mysterious disappearance of the hunters. Chilled to the bone, Alex closed the journal, dismissing the tales as mere folklore. However, as the clock struck midnight, a cold breeze swept through the lodge, extinguishing any doubts that lingered. From the darkness emerged ghostly figures of the hunters, their translucent forms haunting the halls. The air crackled with energy as the apparitions reenacted the rituals that had led to their demise. Alex, paralyzed with fear, witnessed the tragic events unfold before their eyes. As the night progressed, the ghostly hunters became aware of Alex's presence. Their hollow eyes fixed upon the lone traveler, and a spectral hand reached out, beckoning Alex to join their otherworldly procession. Terrified but unable to resist, Alex followed the phantoms through the lodge. The walls seemed to close in, trapping the living among the spirits of the past. The apparitions chanted in an otherworldly language, and the air grew thick with an unnatural energy. In a sudden and unsettling moment, time itself seemed to warp. The hands on the clock spun backward, and Alex realized with dread that the lodge existed in a realm where past and present were forever entwined. The traveler had become ensnared in the same cursed loop that had claimed the hunters all those years ago. Desperation clawed at Alex's heart as attempts to leave the lodge proved futile. The door, once an entrance to warmth and shelter, now mocked Alex with its unyielding refusal to open. The windows, once broken and fragile, were now barriers trapping the lone traveler within the haunted confines of the hunter's lodge. As the first light of dawn broke through the windows, the ghostly hunters faded away, leaving Alex alone in the chilling silence. The once abandoned lodge had claimed a new resident, and the traveler, now a part of its tragic history, was destined to relive the nightmarish events for eternity. The misty mountains whispered tales of the haunted hunter's lodge, warning those who dared to venture into its desolate embrace. And so, the story of Alex and the spectral hunters became another chapter in the cursed history of the forsaken cabin, forever echoing through the cold winds of the mountains. The cabin in the snowstorm. In a land far, far away, there was a little cabin, nestled at the edge of a vast and snowy forest. The air was chilly, and the trees stood tall and proud, their branches adorned with a fresh layer of glistening snow. The cabin had a cozy, welcoming glow emanating from its windows, promising warmth and shelter from the biting cold. My name is Sam, and this is the tale of a winter adventure that turned into a chilling mystery. It all began when my friends and I decided to spend a weekend at the cabin. The idea of a snowy getaway sounded like the perfect escape from our everyday routines. As we arrived at the cabin, excitement bubbled within us like hot cocoa on a stove. The snow crunched beneath our boots, and the cabin stood before us, a haven of comfort in the winter wonderland. Little did we know that our snowy retreat would soon take a turn into the realm of the unknown. Inside the cabin, the warmth embraced us like a fuzzy blanket. The fireplace crackled, casting dancing shadows on the walls. We unpacked our bags, eager to start a weekend filled with laughter, games, and maybe a bit of hot chocolate. The first day passed in a blur of snowball fights, cozy conversations, and board games by the fire. The winter storm outside howled, but we were snug and safe in our little haven. However, as night fell and the wind intensified, a sense of unease settled upon us like a heavy snowfall. As we gathered around the fire, the cabin seemed to groan and shudder. The flickering flames cast eerie shadows on the walls, and strange sounds echoed through the creaking timbers. We dismissed it as the cabin adjusting to the storm, but a feeling of foreboding lingered in the air. That night, as we settled into our beds, the wind outside transformed into a symphony of whispers. I could hear my name being called softly, carried by the chilly gusts. At first, I thought it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, a result of the wind's playful dance with the trees. Little did I know that the forest held secrets, and the whispers were not a mere trick of the wind. The next day, the storm showed no signs of letting up. We peered through the frosted windows, our breath creating foggy patterns on the glass. The once inviting forest now seemed ominous, and the snowfall had intensified, veiling the world in a thick curtain of white. As we attempted to leave the cabin to explore, an invisible force seemed to push us back. The door, once welcoming, now resisted our efforts to step outside. Perplexed, we exchanged worried glances. The forest, covered in an unyielding blanket of snow, held us captive in its wintry embrace. The hours stretched into an endless day as the storm raged on. We tried everything to break free from the cabin's invisible barrier, but it was as if the world outside had frozen in time. The clock on the wall ticked on, mocking our futile attempts to escape. As night fell again, the whispers returned. This time, they were clearer, forming words that sent shivers down my spine. The forest seemed alive with unseen eyes, and the snow outside took on strange shapes, like ghostly figures dancing in the night. In our attempts to understand the mysterious happenings, we stumbled upon an old journal tucked away in a dusty corner of the cabin. The journal spoke of an ancient winter spirit that guarded the forest, its home woven into the very fabric of the snowstorm. The spirit, angered by our intrusion, had trapped us within the cabin, and breaking free would not be an easy feat. Determined to appease the spirit and escape the wintry prison, we ventured into the forest with offerings of pine cones and berries. The wind howled louder, and the whispers grew more insistent. It was as if the forest itself was watching our every move. In the heart of the snowy woods, we discovered an ancient altar covered in frost and surrounded by ice-covered trees. The air shimmered with an otherworldly energy as we placed our offerings on the altar, hoping to appease the winter spirit. As the last offering was placed, the wind ceased its howling, and the whispers softened. For a moment, we thought we had succeeded, that the spirit had accepted our humble gifts. But then, the temperature plummeted, and an icy figure materialized before us, the embodiment of the winter spirit. The spirit spoke in a voice as crisp as the winter air, acknowledging our attempts to appease it. However, breaking the enchantment required a sacrifice. One among us had to stay behind and become a guardian of the winter woods, ensuring that the delicate balance between the spirit and the world was maintained. A somber silence fell upon us as we exchanged glances. It was a difficult decision, but one that needed to be made. In the end, I volunteered to stay behind, to become the guardian of the winter spirit. My friends, grateful for my sacrifice, left the forest, their figures disappearing into the snowstorm. As they faded from view, the spirit bestowed upon me a mantle of frost and ice, binding me to the winter woods. The whispers transformed into a gentle breeze, carrying words of gratitude and farewell. The world around me shimmered, and the snowstorm embraced me like an old friend. Since that day, I have remained in the forest, watching over its wintry beauty. The cabin, now a distant memory, stands as a lone silhouette against the snowy landscape. The winter spirit and I have found a delicate harmony, a dance between the frost and the fleeting warmth. And so, my tale ends here, in the heart of the snowy woods, where the whispering wind and the dance of the snowflakes tell a story of a guardian who embraced the magic of winter. As the seasons change and the snow falls anew, the winter spirit and I continue our timeless dance, a testament to the enchanting mysteries that lie hidden in the heart of a snowstorm. The Time Loop Cabin. In the heart of the dense woods, there stood a quaint cabin. It was a charming little place with a cozy fireplace, wooden beams that creaked with age, and a front porch that overlooked a picturesque lake. Little did anyone know, this seemingly ordinary cabin held a mysterious secret that would unravel the fabric of time itself. On a crisp winter morning, the Johnson family, Mom, Dad, and their two kids, Lily and Jake, decided to embark on a much-anticipated vacation. The cabin, nestled in the snowy mountains, seemed like the perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of their daily lives. As the family arrived, excitement filled the air. They unloaded their bags, and laughter echoed through the cabin as they settled in. Little did they know that the ticking clock on the cabin wall held the key to a time-bending mystery. On the first night, after a delightful dinner and a cozy evening by the fire, the family retired to their respective beds. But as the clock struck midnight, an odd sensation filled the air. The family found themselves back at the beginning of the day, as if the previous day had never happened. Confused but thinking it a strange occurrence, the Johnsons shook off the odd feeling and carried on with their vacation. The second day played out much like the first, with laughter, snowball fights, and board games by the fireplace. Yet again, as the clock struck midnight, they were inexplicably transported back to the start of the day. Perplexed but undeterred, the family decided to make the most of their unique situation. They explored the surroundings, went ice skating on the frozen lake, and indulged in delicious hot cocoa. Each day, they discovered new activities, always ending up back at the cabin as the clock reset. Days turned into weeks, and the Johnsons began to notice subtle changes. They could predict the movements of the local wildlife, and the snowfall seemed to follow a pattern. It became a game for them, a puzzle to solve within the confines of their time-looped existence. One evening, as the family gathered around the fireplace, Lily made a discovery. In the dusty attic, she found a collection of old journals that chronicled the history of the cabin. The journals spoke of a mystical artifact hidden within the cabin that could manipulate time. As the family delved deeper into the entries, they realized that their current predicament was a result of a well-intentioned experiment gone awry. Determined to break free from the time loop, the Johnsons searched every nook and cranny of the cabin. They solved riddles, deciphered cryptic messages, and unraveled the mysteries hidden within the journal pages. However, every attempt to escape the loop only seemed to tighten its grasp. Days turned into months, and the family grew weary. The once joyous laughter now carried a hint of desperation. The familiar routine became a monotonous cycle, and the once charming activities lost their luster. Yet, the Johnsons clung to the hope that one day they would find the key to unlock the shackles of time. As time marched on, the family began to drift apart. Lily and Jake, once inseparable, found solace in their individual pursuits. Mom and Dad, though still loving, carried the weight of their shared burden. The once warm cabin became a haunting reminder of the temporal prison they couldn't escape. One fateful day, after years trapped in the time loop, the Johnsons gathered in silence. The weariness in their eyes reflected the toll the endless cycles had taken. As the clock struck midnight, signaling the beginning of yet another loop, something changed. Lily, now a young woman, hesitated at the door. Instead of following the routine, she turned and walked away, leaving the cabin behind. The rest of the family, caught off guard, tried to follow, but an invisible force held them within the cabin's walls. Day after day, Lily ventured beyond the familiar boundaries, discovering a world frozen in perpetual midnight. She explored the untouched wilderness, observed the stars that never seemed to move, and marveled at the beauty of a landscape frozen in time. Back in the cabin, time looped as usual for Mom, Dad, and Jake. But Lily, having stepped outside the confines of the enchanted cabin, was immune to the temporal reset. She became a silent observer, watching the seasons change while her family remained trapped in a perpetual winter. With each passing loop, Lily aged while her family remained unchanged. She witnessed the changing colors of autumn, the blossoming flowers of spring, and the warmth of summer, all while her family experienced an endless winter. As the years went by, Lily resigned herself to the solitary existence outside the cabin. One day, after countless cycles, Lily returned to the cabin to find Mom and Dad sitting by the fireplace, their faces eternally frozen in expressions of love and concern. Jake, forever a teenager, stared into the distance, his eyes filled with a longing for a future that eluded him. Lily realized that, even though she had escaped the time loop's grasp, her family remained imprisoned within its relentless cycle. With a heavy heart, she made a decision. As the clock struck midnight once again, Lily walked into the frozen night, leaving the cabin and her perpetually trapped family behind. The once lively cabin now stood as a lonely sentinel in the silent mountains. The ticking clock echoed through the empty rooms, marking the passage of time for a family forever bound by the enchantment of a time loop. The world outside continued to evolve, but within the cabin's walls, the Johnsons remained frozen in a perpetual yesterday, their story eternally looping in the quiet solitude of the enchanted cabin.